Hi, and welcome to Courageously You with Martha on the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. It is the #1 internet talk network on that you can find. So here's the thing. My name is Martha Davis Alexander. I am a recovering attorney. I'm a mediator. I'm a certified fearless living coach. I am a money breakthrough business coach, and I'm a sacred money archetype coach. And I'm an abundant mentor. I mentor people on abundance. So we're going to talk today all about the tree of abundance, your tree of abundance. We're going to start at the roots. So what's the purpose of the roots of a tree? I'm just going to go with why roots are so very, very important. And I'm not talking necessarily about, who your ancestors are, although ancestors at some point do come into this. I am talking specifically about your past, your roots, your confidence, your gratitudes, your kindnesses. So a root of a tree is all about gathering water, gathering nutrients, breaking down the minerals, storing that nutrients for the tree when it needs it, and stability, right? Because the more a tree spreads out its roots, the deeper and farther it goes, the more stable the top of the tree is, so a strong wind can't knock it down. And that is so important for humans too. So important for us. Now, if you keep a tree in a pot, those roots get root bound, right? And that impacts not only our stability, our security, what we think, what we do, what we like. It impacts how fast we grow or how slow we grow, how much fruit we produce, how much abundance we bring into our life. And it impacts our relationships because it impacts essentially who we are. The other thing that is so cool about the tree of roots that is like the roots of trees, that is like us, that is like humans in our lives, is those roots spread out. And the research is now that trees of all species communicate with each other when they're in the same area, right? So if you have, I'm in a neighborhood, I have a tree, a big mama tree. I mean, she's like the biggest tree, I think, in the hood. And there are other smaller trees across, and I am just sure that I know scientifically their roots connect. And when a tree is struggling with getting enough water, which I'm in Southern California, and if you don't know, California is in a massive drought right now. And so water is a big deal for trees. It's a really big deal right now. We're only allowed to water once a week. We can then additionally hand water trees, I believe, once a week. So we have really restrictive. So keeping our trees alive is a big deal. So a bigger tree with bigger roots is able to absorb and store more water, right? That is life sustaining for a tree during drought, more water. And if another tree needs water, they share. They support each other in a community. Now, in order for that to happen, excuse my son if you heard that, in order for that to happen, the tree needs to be able to ask for help, to send out, hey, I don't have enough water, needs to be able to receive from somebody else, be able to accept that, right? So that's all part of the root system, the ability to ask for help and receive that help is also in the root system. So I'm going to go a little bit into how you maintain your roots. And I did this a little bit last week, so I'm going to be really brief about it. But ways to keep your tree of abundance abundant, right? The knowledge that it's abundant is partially mindset. It's partially the looking for, training your mind to look for areas in your life where your life is abundant already, areas of life that you want abundance. And really set your values and priorities to know what those things are. And I will do a whole nother one on values and how you do that and how you figure that out. Today, I want to talk just about the roots and some of the things. I want to describe for you my roots from the time I was a child till now. And maybe this will help give you an idea of what can happen to roots. When I was a child of about 6.5, I lived in Iowa. We had horses on my uncle's farm. I had 3 older brothers. We did a lot. We had a lot of family, a lot of community. We were always doing stuff. So from that perspective, my roots were down and deep and spread wide. And I was a happy kid. I was growing. I was nurtured. I had enough water and nutrients, love, attention, all those things for my roots to grow and spread. And then came the day that I came home one day from being out, having a phenomenal day. I was 7, just out running the hood. We didn't call it the hood then, but that's okay. And I came home and my mom had left with 2 of my older brothers. My parents were getting divorced. Harsh reality for me, finding out that way and having it happen that way. So what that felt like as a tree, the tree of abundance that I was growing, is my parents picked up a shovel and simply stabbed it down in all the way around my tree, my young 7-year-old sapling, cutting off a bunch of roots. They did. We cut off a lot of 1968 people didn't get divorced, so there was a lot of connections that cut. I wasn't as much in contact with my mom's side of the family. Kind of makes sense since I stayed with my dad. I did see my mom. My mom and I were very close at the end. And we'd gained closeness during the years, still some struggles, but we were very close. But it's like then they pulled up my roots, kind of cut them off and stuck them in a pot. It wasn't even a pretty pot. I'm going to tell you that it was a plastic black pot from like Navla's or whatever just the plastic black pot that stuff comes in. It was just a large one. Wasn't even pretty. And they handed it back and forth, right, for visitations. So I didn't really ever kind of do those roots. So during that time that they were passing me back and forth for visitations, I learned really quickly to become a people pleaser. It meant that in order to be loved, liked, part of this side of the family, right, I learned to accommodate my behavior to what they wanted. I was a people pleaser. I didn't even know I was a people pleaser, right? I just knew that I had this compelling need to always say yes to whatever. Could be being the PTA president when I became an adult, right? All those things, that compelling need to say yes and not understanding why others didn't. The need to let others have their opinion before mine. So where do you want to go to dinner? I don't care. Whatever you want is fine. That's really not true. There are some foods I prefer than others. And that part of my root, right, that confidence, that self-assurance, that taking care of self took a hit. It crumpled and balled a little bit more. Parts of it died off. because I wasn't tending to me. I also became, and I think it's part of the people pleasing, I'm not positive, a chameleon. So when I went to see my mom, because she hated my dad and was very vocal about it, she really didn't like my dad, although I question that now. So when I went to see her, the parts of me that are truly like my dad, and I am my father's child, no doubt about it, everyone will tell you, I set aside, right? So when I was going to see my mom, I set aside the part of me that was like my dad. And then when I went back home to my dad, I set aside the parts of me that were like my mom. Can't do anything about the blue hair, the blue eyes and the blonde hair, but I could get rid of the personality characteristics that I shared with my mom or that I've absorbed from my mom and take on others. So I was changing who I was. So my root system took a huge hit, right? It not only got balled up, but it got a little uneven in even knowing who I was. So that stability of what that 7-year-old sapling had been, right? Standing strong, confident, tall, to then kind of wavering back and forth. What happens when you don't give the root system of a tree what it needs? The tree doesn't grow, or certainly doesn't grow the way a tree that would have been, that is nurtured, grows, right? So sure, I grew up. Sure, I did all the things that were expected of me, high school, college, and then I went to law school. And in all of those characteristics stayed. It wasn't until a few years ago, and y'all know I'm 61, so it wasn't until a few years ago that I realized some of these traits because I was passing them down to my kids. I have a 21-year-old, a 20-year-old, and an 18-year-old, and I was seeing some of these things in them and realized that I had somehow, they had inherited things that I had inherited, that those things passed down. I also realized that as a people pleaser, my kids got away with a lot more than perhaps they will in the future, although now they're adults. So I can always tell them that some things I would redo. And I do. We do have those conversations. But back to my roots. So my roots were very stable, and I was like a weeping willow, right? And a weeping willow, the trunk is stable. The trunk doesn't move. The branches, right? The branches and the leaves move. I was, the whole thing was a weeping willow. I moved, I flowed. A strong wind could blow me down. That isn't who I wanted to be. That isn't the tree of abundance that I wanted. That kept me, those root bounds, those bound roots, those things that I had changed so they didn't grow, even when I put them down in the ground and transplanted my tree into the ground when I got married, right? They still didn't spread out because those mindsets and those survival mindsets that I've talked about in so many videos kept my roots small, kept my roots from spreading out, from going really deep, from really having that stable tree trunk, and from sending as much nutrients as the tree needed to attract abundance, to have that abundance fill my life. Part of abundance, I want to clarify something. Society has us believing that abundance is all about money, and society gives us a scarcity mindset. Abundance is huge. It is an energy much bigger than money. Money is an energy within abundance. and is a part of abundance, and is a part of that tree. And it is so much more than that. Abundance in love, in spirituality, in any number of things. And until I started looking at the areas of my life that I wanted to show up differently, that I wanted to change my mindset, that I wanted to change, that I wanted to stand firm as authentically me, and I wanted to grow in areas like spirituality, like community service, giving, so that giving back to family, really being present and doing things with my family, to being sorry, I'm distracted, to being to reading, to continuing education, to the things that were really important to me, to healing people, to serving people, to doing what I was meant to do. Forgiveness, right? So a part of my roots were really bound in the anger and residual stuff that I had at my parents. I really thought I was done with a divorce when I was 18, right? They handed me my pot and I went off on my own, and I didn't have to move back and forth very much between them, right? I was on my own. The truth is, I still had some anger issues, some things that I was pretty pissed about, that I needed to, within myself, forgive them, forgive myself, and let it go. So forgiveness is a part of tending to your roots as well. Forgiveness is a huge part of it. And sometimes that means delving into something and letting it go, feeling it and letting it go. I do that through inner child work with my clients. Other people do it. You know, there's the body code, there's the emotion code, there's all kinds of ways that practitioners use. There's lots of modalities that people use to get into that to help you forgive. Remember, and I've done a video on this, remember that forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with the emotions that you are holding in, the anger, the resentment, whatever that you're holding within your being that is impeding your growth, your roots. And so knowing that it doesn't benefit anyone else but you to forgive, you'll understand why forgiveness is such an important part to do during your roots, right? Now with trees, the roots send stuff up. Sometimes there's like a, in the outer part, the trunk of the tree, there's an injury during a year of life. Remember that trees have rings and they get bigger and bigger. My tree would be humongous at 60 years. And trees have that. Their roots heal that. They get the nutrients, energy. They heal that. There's maybe a scar there for that year of their life, but it doesn't ripple out to other areas. It's not true with people, right? My tree of abundance, when I kept people pleasing, right? When I started that at age 7, that 7th ring, it rippled out for another 50 years, right? Every year, that was a ripple in that tree trunk. The chameleon for years, right? Those things were just part and parcel of who I was and the rings in my life. And no matter how much nutrients, healing, or otherwise the roots could send up, keeping in mind those were all balled up too and damaged, those things didn't change. They continued to ripple out, impacting my life, my relationships, all the areas of abundance that I had, spirituality, giving back in the family, in relationships, in what I thought about myself, in my confidence, in just who I was at the heart of me and how I showed up. So it is so immensely important to pay attention to those things. How do you know if there's, I mean, mine seems so obvious, right? I can tell you exactly when my roots were chopped off and put in a pot. Easy peasy. And if you've had a traumatic event in your childhood, that might be when you notice that as well, right? What if you don't have any trauma in your childhood and yet you don't have quite the abundance or the tree of abundance that you want in your life? Your tree doesn't look the way you want it to look. Let's tend your roots. Let's look. Let's see. You can look at your roots, metaphorically speaking. You can look. You can say, what are the things, what are some mindsets that I have or that I don't want to have, right? When you look, there's always the optimist and the pessimist, right? I'm not fond of those. When you go to the gas pump right now, do you say something disparaging about gas prices, politics, whatever it is? Or do you say, I am so grateful that I have money that I can fill my tank? Because if I was in Europe, and if you're in Europe, God bless you for the sanctions on Russia, and thank you for your sacrifice in that. If you're somewhere in Europe, you could be paying $14, $16 a gallon for gas because your country chose to put an embargo on oil from Russia, right? It can always be worse. And there's an abundance of resources, right? You can always take the bus. You can ride share. You can ride a bike. There are other things to do. They're less convenient. You may not like them. And I get that. I'm just grateful that I can fill my tank when I need to fill my tank. And I don't drive very much now. That is a luxury, and I am grateful for that as well, that I work from home. What things are you grateful for? That's your first start, right? Do you see the world as the world has scarcity? Do you see it as the world is abundant? There may be things that are scarce, right? So for me, water in Southern California is scarce. And yet I have water. I can take a shower. It's going to be a quicker shower. I can still do all the things that I want to do. I just have tips and tricks to conserve my water. I can still water, not that my grass is going to maintain watering once a week. It isn't. So I might as well just stop that and let the grass die as it is and put the extra water to my trees and my plants, my shrubs, to prevent erosion on the hillside. So what do you have? What is it that you're grateful for? What is it in your roots that you can see as a mindset that you might want to think, I wonder if that impacts, right? How do others see you? How do you see yourself? There was a period of time in my life, and again, the roots, right? When I was in my 40s, we had three kids, when we were 40, our son was born. And eventually in my 40s, I had everything I wanted. I had a nice house. It wasn't a mansion. It was just a really nice house in a nice neighborhood that I loved. that I had made ours so many different ways. I had a husband who I still have, that I adore, who's one of my best friends. And I thought about killing myself every day. Every single day. I wanted to chop the roots off and be done. Every single day. That thought of suicide hit me. And that was a niggle in my roots that said, things are going really well. We're planted in the ground, but we probably shouldn't grow out or grow deep because we're about to get hacked again. Everything's going good. So let's just keep it short and sweet so that we don't lose as much, right? Because that had happened when I was a kid. It was years before I realized that that's what it was. But my roots didn't grow deep and long in that period of time in my 40s, because I was scared. I was just everything was going to go away and I was going to have to plant my tree again. So I struggled with that abundance. And in 2010, it seemed, the 28, right? 2008, it seemed like I was exactly right, because the market fell out and this and that, and I was kind of a negative Nelly. There were some parts of me that were a negative Nelly. And now I look back and say, I am so glad that is not who I am today, that I took that attitude and replaced it with one of, my goal is to be sunshine and love and light. That is my goal to project to the world, love and light. That's who I want to be. I want to serve people. I want to help heal people. I want people to be happy, to see love and light, and for their lives to be joyous, and for people pleasers to know how to heal those roots and not have those roots put into a little ball. That's what I want. So I made some conscious decisions in my 50s. I decided, and late 50s, I decided that I was going to be a person who showed up with a smile no matter what. That I wanted to be the person that lifted somebody else up, or the type of woman who, if a friend's crown was a little off, just straightened it up without it being a big deal. I wanted to be the type of person that people want to be around, who's upbeat, happy, and can raise everybody else to happy, or can help them raise to happy. To do that, my roots, I needed to tend to my roots. I needed to make sure that they were getting all the nutrients, love, gratitude, self-care, and healing of childhood stuff. I had a lot of childhood stuff, as you can imagine, in my roots. Now, your root of your tree is kind of like the root of your chakra, right? It is very similar. To have safety and stability for a tree, you need to have safety and stability in the roots. To have and your root chakra is all about safety and stability. So those are the places that you start, right? What are things that still bug me? What memories still come up? What things do I still resent from my childhood? Who, if I hear their name, makes me, even though it was from high school, makes me absolutely nuts? That is something that is inside that root that you can heal, turn positive, so that those roots can start to grow, spread out, go deep, and go strong, to give you that stability, that safety, so that your tree of abundance, can grow and can be fruitful. right? That's what we want. We want fruitful trees of abundance, each of us. So here's my exercise for you, because if you know me, you know that I'm not just going to talk. I'm going to give you something to take from this. And if you've listened and you've just listened and that's all you're going to do, great. Thanks for listening. If you could hit a like and, subscribe, that would be fabulous. Help a gal out. I would love an abundance of followers and subscribers to this channel and this show. This is Courageously You with Martha on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network. So hit that subscribe button, like me, because I don't know, I have a nice smile. I gave you something to think about, and now I'm going to give you some action to take. So this actually changes. I'm doing a series on these, so keep watching every Thursday at 3, because 3 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Eastern. And if you're in something else, you're going to have to translate it, because I can't do them all. Well, I could, but I don't have it in front of me. So your task, should you choose to accept it, is how do you show up in the world? It's the first journaling thing. How do you show up? How do you want to show up? Who is it you want to be? How do you want to impact other people? Maya Angelou said, one of her quotes is, doesn't matter what somebody isn't going to remember. People don't remember what you say to them necessarily. They remember how you made them feel. How do you want to impact other people? How do you want to make them feel? And what does it take? What area in your life does that take? Those are our roots. That's who we are at our core. Safety and security, authenticity, confidence. That's who we are. Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? And where do you already, so a list of where do you already have abundance in your life? Where is that? Is it in spirituality? Is it in health and wellness? Is it in money, financial wealth? Is it in family and friends? Is it in romance? Is it in, there's so many different areas, right, where you can have abundance. Pick your own. What's important to you? What areas of your life, business, career, what areas are important to you? Where do you want to focus on multiplying your abundance? Where do you want to go with that? Right? And pick an area or two. What's getting in your way? Is it a mindset? Is it how you show up? Is it a childhood wound that needs to be healed? And just brainstorm. And here's what I want you to do when you brainstorm. You ready for this? I want you to do deep abdominal breathing. I want you to have your pad and paper, your notebook, and a pen, pencil, whatever you like to write with. It doesn't matter. I want you to put your feet flat on the floor. I want you to sit up straight. Don't lounge back in your chair. Sit up straight, feet flat on the floor, hands on your lap, palms down. And I want you to breathe deeply. An abdominal breath, unlike society has taught us, ladies, you don't hold your stomach in, you expand your stomach out. And when you exhale, you contract your stomach. So you're expanding and contracting. And do that for a while, right? Do that. That gets you out of your head and into you, okay? That gets you in touch with you, with your heart, with your soul. Keeps that mind, that fear, and all the reasons why something isn't true, which we all have. It keeps you out of the filters that you've had since, whatever happened. For me, since my parents decided to get divorced and my mom walked out the door without me knowing. Those things, right? Breathe deep and make a list of whatever comes in. Set the intention. I want to know what stands between me and a fully abundant life. What stands between you and a fully abundant life? And then you will know where you start to make a difference. And the first way to start, by the way, just after you do all of that, is every day list five ways that you appreciate the abundance in your life. 5 things you appreciate about the abundance. It can be you can fill up your tank. It can be that you had an abundance of time to watch this podcast, hit subscribe and like. It could be that you appreciate loud, obnoxious noises on podcasts. It could be whatever it is, right? It could be that you appreciate an abundance of sunshine or an abundance of shade or wind or whatever it is, right? Look around you and see where you can find abundance. 5 things a day, write them down. Because what you're doing is teaching your mind to search for abundance. Teaching your mind to search for abundance. Okay? So we're going to train our minds to look for abundance. We're going to check our roots and see where might there be some weaknesses or some things that you can strengthen, that you can heal, that you can make that come fully out so that you have that life full of abundance. That's what we're talking about today. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, for watching. My name is Martha Davis Alexander. This has been Courageously You with Martha. And you can reach me at marthadalexander@gmail.com. That's marthadalexander@gmail.com, or at courageouslyoucoaching.com, COURAGEOUSLYOUCOACHING.com, or you can text or call me at area code 805-422-6865. You have been listening to, you are on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, and I've loved having you here. Join me again. We'll talk soon. Have a fabulous day.